Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Kirkpatrick Podcast. It is your host, Vanessa Elzate, and I am back today from spending a couple of days up in Virginia, actually, not for the Kirkpatrick Summit, not yet, but actually for Training Officers Consortium. And I just had a wonderful time while I was there and was reflecting on a lot of things that I wanted to bring to the podcast today. Wait, I look like a news reporter. Who is she? Don't know her. Although, fun fact about me, my grandmother did want someone to be a Channel 7 news reporter. And so I guess since I look like one and I have a microphone, I'm going to check that one off as fulfilled for her. So you're welcome. Anyway, what we're really here to talk about is this theme throughout the entire conference. So Training Officers Consortium is a really amazing group that is truly lives and just the core of it is really all about the community. You know, it's a smaller group that comes together. They're folks in the government, the training space, and the government space. And I've been working with them for the last 2 years, and just really impressed by the volunteers and their tenacity and just the love that they have for learning and training and building community and sharing resources with one another. You know, as a business owner, sometimes you go to these conferences and you want to have a ton of people there, right? Because you want to maximize your time, maximize your ROI. Never heard that conversation before. But there is something so special about this group. You know, they really, when you come together, like I almost feel like a little bit part of their family now. And they really just have a care for one another that I don't get to see too often when I go to conferences. So it was really special to see and to be a part of it. So I thank them for having me. But one of the main topics of conversation, of course, was disruption and AI. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of AI being talked about. I didn't actually really even talk about AI, did I? Like for a moment, but my presentation was not at all about it. And so, when I think about the conversation that we had, and the conversations I was having more so, not so much in my sessions, although that theme did come up in my session, but more outside is really like, how do we function and try to thrive, or we try to survive, you know, during times of disruption. And disruption does not have to mean, right, like economic. It could be organizational restructuring, right? It could be integration of new technologies, right? There's so many ways that we are disrupting our organizations, our day-to-day, our communities. And when there is disruption, the big thing that it affects is stakeholder engagement. And so I had this question in my session, you know, so to backtrack, my session was all about learning and performance being the responsibility of everyone in the organization. And actually, I had submitted that back in last year, probably around like November of last year. Yeah, November, December of last year. And coincidentally, the week that I'm recording this, the episode that we had just launched is all about, you know, that evaluation cannot live in the silo of learning and development. So to like see how then, you know, I put this, this is totally by chance. I put this proposal in back in November, and that same week, I'm doing the podcast and presentations. It's just really cool to see. But anyway, sorry, I digress. Welcome to the inside of my brain, and having a conversation with me. So anyway, so the session was all about learning and performance being everyone's job. And it's not just about relying on the training department to do that work, but we really need the entire business to support us, right? The entire organization to support us. And they all play some sort of role, whether it is our supervisors and our managers, you know, that have to help us to encourage the behaviors that we want to see, or as our executives helping to block and tackle and really tried to embed these things in our organization, you know, it's everyone's responsibility and job to be part of this work. So, I spent a lot of time during the session talking about stakeholder engagement. And we did a really cool exercise of mapping out who all their stakeholders were, and then coloring in, you know, how was the relationship? Was it red, yellow, green? And giving, you know, them a kind of a map to go away with of, you know, what relationships do I need to start to build to really move this function out of just training and learning and really to being a more strategic business function. And so the question came in my session of I'm having challenges with this conversation because we had major disruption. People are not here that used to be here. And I don't know who to go to. And I sensed a little bit of like, you know, disappointment, maybe some anger of like, you know, these were my people, these are my relationships, and they're now no longer there, and they're being pulled from me. They were pulled. And I've got to go and restart all of that work again. And when you are building relationships and stakeholder relationships, that's hard. And so I wanted to spend this episode really talking more about that, because I don't feel like I gave a really great response. And I spent some time after my session really reflecting on that, and what would we do and what would we say? And so I want to talk more about really thinking back to how do we build our own community, right? Because when we're engaging stakeholders and we're building those relationships, what we are doing is starting to solidify our community and, you know, engagement in our organizational community. So making friends is kind of how I kind of see stakeholder work. Now, are we going to be like best friends? No. But I think that there's a parallel there. So one of the things that I shared actually privately with this person afterwards was, you know, I think about my experience of moving here to Florida. So everybody knows by now, your girl is from Jersey. I grew up coming down here to Miami. My whole mom's side of the family lives down here. And over a year ago, we decided to move to Florida. Now, I also moved to North Broward, bordering Palm Beach County, and my family all lives in South Broward and Miami-Dade. So it's not like my family is in my backyard. So do I have some community here? Yes. Am I able to see them as often as I probably need? No. So when I got here, you know, I've spent the last year really feeling out of place. And there's a lot of disruption in my life, right? I went from having a community that they say like raising kids takes a village. Like I had a whole village that lived super close to me. I always had backups for the backups. My family, my mom and I would coordinate things. They would, help pick up from school if I needed them to, or I had employees that worked out of my house that could do some of that stuff for me when I needed to take meetings, or if I was traveling, I never had to worry about my kids because they would just go stay at my mom's and all of that. And I had my friends, so I never felt like lonely because I had my friends to hang around with, and I had, a place to go to decompress when things at work were not great. And I had community there that understood entrepreneurship, business, instructional design. So I was able to escape, not just virtually, but like in person, right? So Nicole Papiano Lugera lives in New Jersey. We lived maybe 20, 25 minutes away from each other, or maybe a little bit further, but we'd meet about 20, 25 minutes, in the middle. Either way, we would hang out. And she very much understands, you know, this world, this business. Coincidentally, we like knew the same people. So probably somehow passed each other at the Jersey Shore. I am sure of it, in our younger years. But anyway, I had community and I came here and I had nothing. And it kind of became like an angrier version of myself, if I'm honest, for a while, because there was a lot of change happening and I wasn't really understanding it. The economy wasn't great. And there was just disruption happening in my business. There was disruption happening in the industry. There was disruption happening in my home life, in my community. And it wasn't until probably a couple of months ago that I like finally stopped feeling so bad for myself, you know, and just, you know, kind of gave my own little pep talk of like, girl, your situation is not going to change if you do not change it. And I can wait to build community and build relationships and do the networking thing. But I work from home and I don't foresee like people just coming to my door wanting to be my friend. I'm going to have to do the work to put myself out there. And that comes with a lot of challenges and mindset work that I've had to do. But little by little, I'm doing things like I'm going to the gym more. I'm becoming friendly with, you know, the instructors and the others that go to the classes. You know, I'm doing adult ballet. I grew up doing ballet. I grew up as a competitive dancer. And now I'm getting back into it, which, just to be clear, I have not danced since I was like 20 and I'm not 20 now. And so there's some challenges, but we're enjoying putting the tights on again and the leg warmers and the leotard. So, but anyway, it's another community that's helping me escape. And honestly, like, it has truly helped my mental state. And I'm starting to find, you know, organizations for like networking and things like that, you know, so I can meet other business owners that are in the area. I'm like, I live in South Florida. Like, this is a hotbed for other CEOs and entrepreneurs, especially those, like, I'm getting more into tech, like in the tech space, like, girl, get yourself out there. And so anyway, so I was sharing this with this person, and I was like, you know, I just think that the challenge is we can let disruption get to us. And I think there is a moment of like wallowing and like being upset. Like, I did that for like a year. And then we've just got to like pull ourselves together and say, you know what? I've got to be my own savior. If this is important to me and I do believe in it, I've got to pick myself up and do the work to build the relationships. And I think that we can often assume that relationships and alignment are just going to happen, right? Like, I send an email or I host a meeting or I just like roll something out. Well, of course, everyone should align. Everyone should come together. We should just naturally like build that relationship. But the fact is that relationships take work. Trust takes time to build, and everyone has their own, whatever is happening, you know, their own plate that is overfloweth, right? We are no longer in a position where we're doing one person's job and we're feeling like we're good, right? I think it's clear that at this point, just about everybody is doing like two people's job. And that just does not seem to be changing. And so I think if we think of stakeholder engagement, besides the general things that we recommend, right? Like speak their language and like all of these things, we've got to start treating stakeholder engagement as an opportunity to build community. And when I think of the future of work and of learning, it is in community. It is in connecting with others. It is with finding like-minded people that are a little bit ahead of you, or maybe a lot ahead of you, to help pay down this thing that we call like an ignorance tax. tax. I heard that from this guy, Alex Hormozi, I follow, does like a lot of sales stuff and like entrepreneur education and stuff. Total gym bro guy, but you know, we can handle him. But I love the metaphor of that he shares that it's like, you know, you're going to pay anyway, right? You are either going to pay because you're going to buy some education or you're going to pay for some coaching, or you are going to pay through stumbling and figuring it out on your own and just trying and trying and trying and trying one thing and not working and trying the other thing and it not working. And why, you know, if I can find a way to pay down that ignorance tax, right? Why wouldn't I build that community to help me do that, to accelerate where I am? I've always said this, like in all of my years, like I don't actually have to learn everything by doing it myself. I can learn from others' experiences. You know, there are some things, I'm going to have to learn on my own, but a lot of things we can learn through others. And when we build community, that's what we're doing. So one of the things that, you know, I did a lot of speaking a couple of years ago about TikTok and what we can learn from that and how we can leverage it. And I used to tell people like one easy way to get started with like doing a TikTok challenge in your organization is, what do you wish you knew? Like from your first day, like on your first day of work, and record that quick selfie video on your phone. Right. And then post that in like you know, if you have a Teams channel for new hires or just compile them, heck, you could even put them into a PowerPoint presentation, right? And just do like auto, like once, you know, it auto plays and then it scrolls to the next one if you want that like TikTok-y feel, right? But how amazing and welcoming is it for, you know, new hires to not have to figure all of the politics out on their own, you know, through trying it out and just having someone say, hey, when we say this, we mean this. You know, this acronym means this. The bathroom is right there. You know, do not cook fish in the microwave. We will all hate you. Those sorts of things, right? These are ways that you build community. You actually start to build culture and you start to pull people together. And it's not just going to happen organically. Community building and stakeholder engagement take time. So my takeaways for you and like actual ways that you can do this. First things first, do not wait for stakeholders to come to you. First of all, they won't. They're busy. They're doing, at least two people's jobs. Seek them out. Just like I'm seeking out community here in Florida and I am seeking out like intentionally friends. So if you live in the area and you want to be my friend, let's talk about that. But yeah, I'm like intentionally seeking out and creating my circle, and being very intentional about it. Right. And so I think that you should do the same. You know, when you are trying to do the stakeholder engagement work, do it early, do it before you have a need. Or before they come to you with a need, right? Because you'll also learn a lot just by being friendly with someone, and understand more of their challenges. And that's going to give you so much data, you know, as you're building solutions. So that's first things first. Next is really practice the art of listening and like listen really deeply, right? When, especially we're in times of disruption, people just really want to be heard. And I really felt that the last couple of days. You know, it wasn't so much like there were takeaways that I provided in the program, but they just needed a moment to be heard and to maybe, and they really used this experience to say, okay, we are where we are. We're going where we're going. These are the cards that we were dealt. We've had our moment to be upset about it. And it doesn't mean that we're not happy, but we've got to figure out a way to move forward. But the only way to do that first is to just listen. And also, I'll tell you this, when you are just listening to a stakeholder, people just like want to vent. They just want a place to share what it is that they're dealing with. They just want an empathetic ear often. And when you listen and do not interrupt, offer solutions, just listen, you will come away understanding that person so much better that you will be more proactive with solutions you provide them in the future. You'll be more proactive about how you design things for them. You'll understand more about maybe why they're not getting back to you as quickly as you would like. Really think about it. It helps to build that empathy. I think one of the things that we talked about yesterday was like, I really wish supervisors cared more to like actually help us and like encourage these behaviors. And I was like, 100%, I hear you. Yes. And let's also put ourselves in the manager's shoes. How many people are they managing? They're also not only managing their own sense of fear over the disruption, but they're now managing their teams. They're getting hit from all different areas of the business to do things for their team, right? So they may not know how to prioritize or like triage all the requests, that like encouraging your employees like behaviors from what they learned at training should be towards the top of the list. Okay. And frankly, your training may actually may not be that important always. The other thing that we have is there are people, managers that have been promoted that never wanted to actually manage people. They did not want to manage humans, or they thought that they could because they were really good at what they did and they really wanted that promotion. Like there was like no other place to go other than managing another human, right? And so they're put into this position where they're now in a position that is not their area of expertise, right? I'm a really good coach. I'm not always good at like holding boundaries and like holding people always accountable. And I know that about myself. I am and I'm not. But there are managers that don't have that sort of self-awareness. But when you listen to them and you understand more of their day and you really like put yourself in their shoes and like really think about things, you have just a little bit more empathy and you start to understand better. And it's when you have that empathy that you can start to build that relationship. So they might be a little bit more apt to bump up your need of supporting the work that you're doing, because they have that relationship, I think we also spend a lot of time when it comes to building relationships where we only seek them out when we need something. And we've all had that friend in our space, in our community. They only hear from her when she and her boyfriend are not together or when she needs something, right? And otherwise, you don't hear from them. And that is also felt with stakeholder engagement. You are not just engaging stakeholders for the sake of your one thing. You need to remember that one-off engagements are not going to be what builds a community. Show up often, show up without an ask. Just show up because you care, right? It also helps your mindset and like your mental health, right? And we think about what are the tasks that are most valuable. While there may not be an outcome and like your entire day should not just be reaching out to stakeholders, you should be blocking out weekly time to reach out to stakeholders. 30 minutes a week, an hour a week, just to do stakeholder engagement work is going to move you farther than anything else you could possibly be doing. The next recommendation I have for you all too is like celebrate progress together. I think we're always just looking for the big win to celebrate. And there are a lot of little milestones along the way that you should be celebrating. Because if you wait for the big win, it's going to be a really long time. We're going to like burn out of steam and like it becomes a whole thing. Take little steps, right? Celebrate those little steps and bring the stakeholder into that celebration. So then they also feel ownership in that. They want to be able to celebrate and know that they had a piece of that. And then the most important thing that you can do is anchor your work in performance. Stop anchoring it in one and done learning events. Keep reminding yourself and stakeholders, it is not about learning as the end goal. It's about what is the business organizational performance achieved. And when you can do that, it positions you as more of a performance consultant as opposed to, an instructional designer or a training specialist. So, my friends, let us all go on this journey together while I'm still building community here. It has, started to give me more of that stability in my every single day. I have more of a even better routine than I did in the past. I'm finding more joy in the little things. I'm actually being more present for my kids because I'm able to step away from work because I'm not trying to fill the time I would be spending with I spent a lot of time just figuring things out on my own because I didn't have any more of the people that I felt like I could rely on for support. And it sucked my confidence and it sucked my joy out. So I want this for you. So when we have times of disruption, just remember it's no different than how we feel in our personal life. Right? It's easy to feel isolated. It's easy to feel alone. But when we work on actually building community with stakeholders, this is where resilience comes in. This is where alignment, and this is where performance lasts. So if you're interested in learning more about this, I've got some episodes that I'll make sure are linked for you. And I'd love to hear more from you. What are some ways that you are building stakeholder relationships through times of disruption? Talk soon, friends. Bye.